Hi, I'm Carla Killough McClafferty, and I'm here to celebrate Read Across America. Today I'm going to read you a scene out of my book, The Many Faces of George Washington, Remaking a Presidential Icon. So before I read this scene, I kind of need to set it up a little bit. This scene in the book is about when George Washington was 21 years old, and he is sent on a mission before the French and Indian War begins. His mission is to take a letter to the French commander and bring a letter back to the governor of the colonial Williamsburg. So this is a little known event that happens in the life of George Washington when he was 21 years old. So let's read. George Washington had the answer he came for: stalemate. Britain wanted to control the area, and France wanted to control the area. Both wanted to force the other one out. The next day, Washington started back toward Williamsburg to deliver the message to Governor Dinwiddie. Travel was difficult in the cold. Washington noted in his journal that the horses were soon weak and less able to travel every day. On December 26th, Washington decided he could travel faster on foot. He changed into his Indian clothing. He likely found these garments more practical for walking in bad weather, and separated from the rest, taking only Christopher Gist with him. Step by step, the two men crunched through the frozen wilderness. Washington and Gist arrived at the bank of the Allegheny on December 29th. Frozen sheets of ice 50 yards wide had formed on each side of the bank, leaving a fast-flowing stream filled with massive chunks of ice in the middle. The only way across the treacherous river was to build a raft. Washington had only one tool: a hatchet. They went to work. All day the two men cut down trees and lashed them together to make a raft. Finally, at just past sunset, they were ready to launch. Washington climbed aboard the teetering craft, carrying his small pack, his gun, and the long pole he planned to use to steer the raft across the river. When both men were balanced and ready, they started across the water. Huge shards of ice crashed into the raft, one after the other. The flimsy raft dipped and rocked. It seemed that at any moment they would be overwhelmed and sink. George Washington believed he was going to die. Looking upriver, Washington saw massive ice floes careening toward them. He had to do something. If only he could stop the raft long enough for the huge pieces to pass them by without hitting them, then maybe they could reach the other side. With every ounce of strength in his body, Washington jammed his navigation pole through the churning water into the muddy river bottom 10 feet below the surface. Instantly, water rushed against the pole with such violence that it jerked him off the raft. Washington was swallowed up by the river. He kicked his muscular legs until his head popped up out of the freezing water. He reached for the raft and just barely caught hold of the rough edge. The raft was beaten up by the ice and would not hold together long enough to get to the other side. As Washington drifted downstream in the freezing water, a tiny island in the middle of the river came into view. Letting go of the useless raft, Washington and Gist swam toward the strip of land. Darkness had fallen by the time they dragged themselves out of the icy water. They were soaked to the skin, and the temperature was falling fast. Washington and Gist shivered through the sub-freezing night and hoped they wouldn't freeze to death before morning. At dawn, they were still alive. Gist suffered from frostbite on all of his fingers and some of his toes. Washington survived without injury. They were relieved to see that during the miserable night, even the middle of the river had frozen solid. Both men walked across the river to the other side and kept going. So that's an exciting event that happened during the life of young George Washington from my book, The Many Faces of George Washington, Remaking a Presidential Icon. I wanted to read this scene from my book today to celebrate reading and promote a new initiative that's taking place in Arkansas. I live in Arkansas and grew up in Arkansas, and they are beginning an initiative called RISE, R-I-S-E, and that stands for Reading Initiative for Student Excellence. So teachers, as you do Read Across America events, please take photographs of the events that you're holding, and we would love to see them at the Arkansas Department of Education. So use the following hashtag so we can see the progress of what you're doing in your schools. So use hashtag RISE Arkansas, RISE Arkansas, hashtag your school's name and then the teacher's name. For example, it would be hashtag RISE Arkansas, hashtag Jones Elementary Brown. So thanks for listening. Keep reading across America and across Arkansas.